G'day Bear fans, welcome Coyote fans, this is Paul Ferris. I have the oil pan back on my Barra. And how did I do that? I've got a how-to and some instructions. Links in the comments or in the description of this video. And I also want to plug Chris Nieves has a whole slug of Barras. If you're going to start your own Barra project, you're going to need an engine. He's got the best prices and he's solid delivery. So tune in if you want to see how I did it. Hey, so finally got my oil pan back. I got those two, can't tell right now, but those are AN fittings, aluminum welded to the pan. I know those welds look a little bit rough, but they're incredibly solid. And this one you can't blame on Chris, that was my mistake. Anyways, it's ready to be mounted to the motor. So let's cover how you would mount this to the motor, but first we have to let the paint dry on my oil pan. Alright, paint's dry. Got my oil pan drain plug and my two AN fitting covers installed. Now let's take a look at where we're at with the engine. I need to Scotch-Brite clean all of these surfaces that the oil pan connects to. And then finally I'm going to vacuum out my engine. Probably going to cover some of this with something so that while I'm working I don't get any more gunk in the engine than I have. As you can see, there was some fitting going on the oil pan over this oil sump tube, and so I've got to vacuum the thing out anyway and wipe it down, but it should be fine. So let's get started. Alright, so I got the surfaces cleaned. I'm going to wipe this down and vacuum out the exposed part of the motor. Just try and get many of these aluminum chips and everything off of here as possible before I install the oil pan. And then I'm going to clean this gasket surface here with acetone, and that will match. Let me put this down. My oil pan mating surface, I'll clean it one last time with acetone and we should be good. I'll have to clean out these guys. I've got some gaskets that go in there, and then we'll be ready to apply our sealer. Alright, so I got the surfaces cleaned. I'm going to wipe this down and vacuum out the exposed part of the motor. Just try and get many of these aluminum chips and everything off of here as possible before I install the oil pan. And then I'm going to clean this gasket surface here with acetone, and that will match. Let me put this down. My oil pan mating surface, I'll clean it one last time with acetone and we should be good. I'll have to clean out these guys. I've got some gaskets that go in there, and then then we'll be ready to apply our sealer. Alright, I got my seals in place on the oil pan. At this point now, I've also cleaned all of my surfaces with acetone and vacuumed out the debris. It wasn't much. So it looks ready to apply the Loctite sealer to this. I'm going to need two types of sealer. I'm going to need a sealer for this gasket here, which creates the gasket, and then each of the small oil pan bolts, no, excuse me, the cross bolts that go in here get thread lock according to the manual. So I'm not used to using thread lock. I'm used to using never seize. I'm more worried about getting bolts out than putting them in and keeping them there. Sounds crazy, but in northern Ohio, you learn to live with this because the way they've done salt on the roads. So, anyways, back to this. I'm going to get my thread locks ready, both of them, and my oil pan cleaned up and ready. And then I'm going to apply this sealer in. Within 3 minutes, according to the manual, I need to have that thing down, you know, tapped into place, and put in all of my 21, I think it is, fasteners to hold the oil pan down. Now you take them down snug, not too tight. Then you put in your cross bolts. There's a pattern that you tighten the cross bolts in with a torque wrench. So I'll have the torque wrench ready. I'll have my sockets ready. I'm going to prepare and do that. And then apply the seal and lock her down. Anyways. All right. That was easy, huh? This number 9 bolt was a real bitch to get in, mainly because we didn't have these down tight enough. They weren't snug enough to pull the pan down to let that bolt in, and I was able to figure that out eventually and get it in. Then these are all torqued down to 58 foot-pounds. The first round is 22 foot-pounds. Second round is 58. For the most part, this one is expected. I have the high-speed video showing me putting the sealer on and everything. Probably would have been nice to stop and show that, but I apologize. It's just basically you put down a 2 or 3 millimeter wide strip of that Loctite in the pump gun. Where is that stuff? It's right there. This is my buddy Jesse. He helped me with the specifics. So Loctite 5910, and I just used blue Loctite thread lock for the cross bolts, and It's that all is going to dry, and I'll just cut off the excess with a razor blade is my plan from here. So I use a little too much, which in my opinion is better than not enough. And it's on there. What can you say? Anyhow, my pan is on the engine, and I'm going to let this stuff dry, and we'll have a lot. Well, here we are. Oil pan's on. Some of the bolts, I've been chasing them down, putting them back. The oil pan is roughed in. Bolts are all torqued. This was 8 foot-pounds rather on these. They're hardly any force to turn them. Got them all checked, rechecked. These are all torqued, all my cross bolts. I probably will trim this excess off in a day or so of the Loctite, just for looks. These are my motor mounts. Got them both temporary. There's finger tight right now, but that's what they look like. Let's go around this engine, talk about the things that I know and don't know. There's very few unknowns at this point. I have to find a belt that fits this. It's like a 6-rib combo here. So I'll find a belt. Measure with some string and go to a parts store. I believe my Hydro Boost hookup is exactly the same as this pump here, this hydraulic pump. So there's that. There's the alternator wiring, which I'm not 100% certain I've got wiring for. This alternator will need to be regulated at like 13.5 to 14 volts when it's charging. Hopefully it does. I'll know fairly quickly. Ground. Engine ground. Very nice. I know where that is. Exhaust. I figured that out. Motor mounts. Chris Nieves figured that out for me. By the way, quick plug here. Chris has a bunch of Barra engines. If you're starting one of these projects, you're going to need one. He's the guy. Heater hose inlet and outlet. Not sure which is which right now. I think this is inlet or outlet rather than this is inlet. We'll figure it out. Either way, they're roughly where they need to be for me to hook them up to the chassis of my new Edge. That O2 sensor, I believe, is already plumbed. Figured out the clutch, I believe, and pressure plate and flywheel. That's all good. I have to rig in my new Edge temperature sensor. That's the. I'll finish that up before I flip the engine over, since that's so hard to get to. What else have we got going on here? There's the other motor mount. That oil filter is an FL820S, same as a 4.6. Here are my hookups to my fuel system, my fuel regulator, which I believe I'm simply going to plug off the return for this system and just plug in the feed. So that's how that's going to work. Otherwise, I wouldn't need a regulator. Hey, save money. What else we got going on? I think that's everything I need to figure out. The wiring is right here. There's a vacuum line. There's the wiring, okay? There's a vacuum line. For the most part, I'm ready to flip this engine back over and get started with it sitting on the K-member stand, getting the transmission mounted, checking the action of the hydraulic clutch. Once I've got positive action of that, I'm going to begin trying to fit this thing back into the new Edge body. I'm probably going to paint my faceplate the same way I painted the oil pan. And the top of the engine, I'm thinking I'm going to paint with this same high temperature POR 15, brake caliper / engine paint. So it'll be red, to match performance red. So it's a good day. My buddy Jesse Matigli helped me get this oil pan on, as you'll see in the video. So don't forget to subscribe, tell your friends. My Barra project is moving right along. I'm very close to refitting this engine back in the engine bay for like the 4th time. So don't forget to subscribe. Keep tuning in. Thanks.